Hello and welcome to the Raw Preview. I'm Michael Sidgwick, joined by Michael Hamflett and Benjamin Richardson to discuss everything that is in store for us on tonight's episode of WWE Monday Night Raw. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure to subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from for daily wrestling podcasts. We preview and review Raw, SmackDown, the Wednesday Night War, pay-per-views, we hold wrestler interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WhatCulture. Now, gents, historically, WWE always enjoys a bump in the ratings post a pay-per-view. Now, on that objective evidence, you simply must be wrapped in anticipation. Yes?
I don't want to watch any more WWE. Me.
Ever again.
Not ever again. Maybe just for a few weeks.
The rest of the year.
TLC was rough. And I'm reading mixed reviews online, trying to judge the consensus as we do on the post pay-per-view Mondays, because you can't just throw your oar in if you were a bit too tired or that one match didn't work for you. But I feel like, I don't know what the opposite of investing in characters is at this time of year, but I feel like the company, like at this point, aren't invested in them, so why should I? Nothing felt urgent on that pay-per-view. Nothing felt like it was driving me to Raw.
Yeah, I mean, it's the seasonal disinterest that you've just mentioned. To be perfectly fair, TLC didn't it met my expectations. It was exactly where I expected it would be, especially when they promoted a 7-match card where they didn't even add. You had an opportunity to add extra matches on the SmackDown, on the Go Home show. Did absolutely nothing. They added a ladder. That's all they did. They clearly couldn't care, and they're saying you shouldn't care yet either until Royal Rumble season kicks off. When we're planning to give you some actual
That's how
content.
it felt. Yeah.
In contrast, both AEW and NXT are giving us loads of reasons to care in an uncharacteristic thing for pro wrestling in North America in December. Now,
although they're both going hiatus over Christmas, I think they're just doing one episode each.
It's clearly a very cynical race to watch us after the Christmas break, lads, but that will manifest in fantastic pro wrestling.
That's it, yeah.
So I could not
They
care
should
less.
be raising the bar for Raw and SmackDown to try and do something similar.
I also think they're going to see a bump in the rating simply because of having a couple of weeks off.
Indeed.
Anticipation.
It's funny you should say that this should drive WWE's main roster to do it, because various corners of capital W, capital T wrestling Twitter, chief among them, the very reputable Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com, have alluded to the fact that there won't be any placeholder shows between Christmas and New Year and after the fact. They're going to be full of action and incident.
Does he have to say that? Because TLC paid absolutely nothing off. Is that?
I'm very much editorialising on a cryptic tweet. That's what I'm doing here. But I've heard a guy called Rovert on wrestling Twitter say that don't expect placeholder shows, and he's been bang on the money with some of his predos, as we say in FPL lexicon. Some very impenetrable English football stuff for you there. Now, not that I'm second guessing anybody, I'm just using recent precedent to see if it informs the future. Now, let's take a look in the Wayback Machine and have a look at the tapings from last year's.
Yeah, we should. There's something obviously worth mentioning before you go ahead, is that they actually taped in 2 shows tonight.
Yes.
And Christmas episode in the can as well, the 23rd episode, so it doesn't seem like it's going to be action-packed and non-placeholder when it's been
long matches, so guys that appear twice. Yeah.
Well,
but slammies and presents on stages and stuff like that.
Speaking of which, right, we complain at length that WWE, if you look at the stage designs, I know they've changed it up of late, and the pyro and the way they drive storylines with authority figures and the same old people on top. We always accuse WWE of just feeling like the same for years and years and years and years and decades on end in terms of opening segments. Last year's Raw Christmas spoilers genuinely feel like a lifetime ago. Let's have a look. Elias kicks off the Christmas Eve edition of Raw with a Christmas song in the ring. He knocks Bobby Lashley and Leo Rush with the song. They interrupt, and it's time for a Miracle on 34th Street fight. So probably one of those is coming up. It's an annual tradition.
It's probably going to have Bobby Lashley in it. That's how Rusev gets his win back.
Continuity. Yeah, continuity. Moving on. Raw Tag Team Champions Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. Neither of those have got the same names, let alone they're still not a tag team. Retained over the Revival. Some things never changed. When Gable rolled Scott Dawson up for the pin, because he's so small, that's all he can do.
I said Bobby Roode has managed to get himself Christmas off. So that'd be different.
Get in. Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Ember Moon defeated Mickie James, Dana Brooke, and Alicia Fox. The Riot Squad, remember them?
Yeah.
Attacked Moon, Banks, and Bayley after the match to set up, as it turned out, nothing.
You might. I think it was to set up the Firefly Funhouse, actually. That's what I'd say they were playing a long game. Yeah.
Indeed. Finn Balor defeated Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler in a triple threat, after which Drew announced himself for the Royal Rumble match. So I might get some announcements from the guys who are already blatantly going to be in it. So,
Hang on, Drew announced himself by getting beat.
Yeah.
So I've lost the match, but now I'm going to fight for the title.
That is precisely what's happened. Paul Heyman comes out for his Celebrating the Holidays with Paul Heyman segment. He declares WWE Universal Champion Brock Lesnar will defeat Braun Strowman at the Royal Rumble. Well, he didn't, because the match never happened. Strowman interrupts, not wearing this thing on his arm, and taunts Heyman, terrifying him. Braun places a Santa hat on Heyman's head, taunts him a bit more, and promises to beat Lesnar for the title at the Rumble.
Remember this well.
There were some problematic, awkward jokes. Yes, I remember this very well too.
Yeah, it was anti-Semitic, wasn't it? That's
it was.
what you're referring to.
It was.
Indeed. Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey. Now, facetiousness aside, I really miss this. Like, I really...
Can she be on Raw tonight?
I know, I wish. Retained over Natalia. Maybe it wasn't halcyon days, as we thought. She made a tap to the armbar. Here's something quite crazy. Heath Slater defeated Jinder Mahal by DQ due to interference from the Singh brothers. Rhino comes out dressed as Santa Claus to make the save for Slater. Rhino ends the segment with a gore to Jinder. And in the main event, guess what the main event was?
Oh, last year.
Bearing in mind what happened on December 17th.
Is it something to do with Gas Mask, Dean Ambrose, and Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins?
No.
Oh. I don't know, because they fell all over Raw at the time.
Does it involve Becky Lynch?
No. Do you want one more guess for the customary 3?
I honestly can't think of who else was on this brand.
1 week after Baron Corbin was deposed from power for having a poisonous effect on both ratings and the general atmosphere surrounding the product, having been objective, calculable ratings poison. In the main event, he lost to Seth Rollins with a curb stomp.
Well, that was like a passing of the torch. So, like, he is the mantle as the ratings. Whatever the
Pick your poison match.
Yeah.
Pick your poison match. This, if I remember correctly, followed a TLC match about a week or two prior. So that was a ratings disaster. So what did they think? Let's do a normal match. Remove the 3 interesting things from the match and run the match back.
All flippancy aside, I'm glad WWE have got away from using Baron Corbin as a troll. Like, I'm really pleased that in the last 12 months, we're not anywhere near that Baron Corbin anymore. We're not just given hideous Baron Corbin segments that are proven to be ratings toxicity over and over again, week after week.
So using our analysis, what are we going to get specifically as it pertains to Christmas stuff?
I genuinely, let's go with a miracle on 34th Street between Rusev and Lana. A Christmas miracle that Rusev actually gets a win that means something, that he gets to win a feud and he gets to throw Bobby in a big box so that Jerry Lawler can say, that won't be the only big box Bobby dies into this Christmas. Or something that equally as objectifying towards Lana as that.
He's going to say, she's a ho-ho.
Fantastic.
There you go.
You read it here first. And we have got an absolutely stellar track record for predicting stuff, i.e., after about a full calendar year of flagship TV show preview podcasts, we've correctly guessed one thing, and it was dog food. Therefore, fairly obvious. Right, away from the facetiousness, what next for Rusev after this? Is he considered a prospect? Is this punishment? Because as of time of recording, I don't think he has signed a new contract.
When you say punishment, I was pointing this out to you. Do you know he still hasn't won a match on pay-per-view since SummerSlam 2016?
Yeah, probably.
Can he be punished anymore? He's involved in this angle.
It's ironically, considering they once sold a calendar with 365 occurrences, it's never been Rusev Day, ever. Like they do not want to book it; they just want to sell the idea of it. So I think they're quite content to have him be booked like this because they think he might sign anyway, and they think fans that might sort of propel his ego to something greater than it really should be will convince him that this is the best place for him. So that it's almost like. It's a different kind of 50-50 booking where they don't need to push him because they feel assured that he'll stay exactly where he needs to be. It would take one win every few months to get him. I think we talked about this before. I don't think Rusev's ever going to be like a top guy anymore, but he could be an upper tier guy with one win every few months because he's so over, and they think, well, we don't even really want him as an upper tier guy. Where we've got him is exactly right, and this is the formula for it. But I feel like there's a television win just so they can pretend that he's won this program, because he has to win it. He has to win this series, so there's got to be something in it for him.
The Miz had to win the series with Shane McMahon.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
The shame about this,
ideally, the Miz had to really beat the human Bray Wyatt for the sake of his kids, but he lost. And
yeah, the baddies always win.
Yeah, there's no real logic. In fact, they had three heels winning 3 straight matches cleanly last night.
Bit of a shame on it.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Yeah, it's a shame for Rusev because it felt like, despite my personal problems with the whole issue, the storyline, the misogynistic elements that I thought were rotten, at the very least, if you'd like to take away all those calcifying layers of WWE bollocks, Rusev did kind of shine as a like sort of an upbeat chipper, bantering off Lana completely. It felt like fans were connecting to him on that basis, and yet the dead silence that received that match last night didn't really get me anywhere excited for his prospects whatsoever. But enough about Rusev. They've probably forgot about him, so we shall too. Who could possibly emerge? We saw on the Christmas spoilers from last year that people, despite losing, are declaring themselves left, right and centre for the Royal Rumble around this time of year. Who's going to emerge, do you think, as a potential contender for Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble?
I was going to say Drew McIntyre, because he clearly needs to do nothing to declare himself to do anything at the Royal Rumble. I can't actually foresee anybody at the moment. I think this period of there's 2 weeks worth of tapings is an opportunity for WWE to kind of create somebody. Nobody feels hot coming out of TLC, nor did they really after the chaos of the Survivor Series. NXT did. Raw and SmackDown didn't.
Not in terms of challenging Brock Lesnar, because that's ludicrous, but I think Humberto Carrillo possibly have a good run from this point.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I just think, yeah.
He was fantastic in that
really
kickoff night.
Yes.
See, Andrade would always be a shout, but they're working on something with Andrade that involves taking away one of the best elements of his act. So why would that be the thing that tees him up to Brock Lesnar? Do you know what I mean? It just feels like they've got a 2-week reset here where they can find something in somebody. And Paul Heyman's booking style reflects this as well. It's like, I'm going to push Cedric Alexander for 2 weeks into losing against AJ Styles. I'm going to push somebody else, Ricochet, into going really hard for 2 weeks and then losing to AJ Styles. What I'm saying is it's going to be AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. But there is proof in this concept that he wants to get somebody over before Vince McMahon says, nah, thanks, and feeds him to a guy he actually likes. So that'll probably be what we see over the next 2 weeks. It almost happened with Ray just over a sort of more extended period of time. So they'll find somebody that'll feel real enough. But Brock not being on the show means we're not going to get excited about it until you actually book the match, until you put it on a poster. Yeah,
on the subject of not being excited about it, like, this is impossible because it's Ricochet, but he's been like languishing in main event following the Survivor Series, and sort of a brief tease of a feud with Randy Orton that never seemed to materialise. But again, I could very much see them pushing Ricochet out of nowhere to win something along the lines of a 6-pack challenge or a fatal 5 or 4-way, and then emerging as a contender to face Brock Lesnar purely on the basis that the dynamic such a match affords will make Brock Lesnar look like a monster heading into what is presumably, predictably, a title defence at WrestleMania. What are your thoughts on seeing Ricochet in a match like that? And is it the same as everybody else on the internet?
Yeah, pretty much.
He's small, so he should be good.
Yes, you just look at it and you think of the precedent of AJ, you think of Daniel Bryan, you think of Finn Balor. I think it'd be great. I don't know if I necessarily see him on that calibre in the same category though. So I think we'd probably get a much shorter and more dominant match.
I would think because he's not in that tier just yet, this match could kind of make him. And that's kind of how far we've fallen. We're looking at guys who
but you could have said the same thing about, I know it was a different objective in mind, but you could have said the same thing about Kofi Kingston as a champion. Like, he could have been made in defeat to Brock Lesnar, a similar size to Ricochet, and obviously he was just crushed. I know, like,
ruined my next point, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Say it anyway.
I mean, it's like the sort of it speaks to the levels to which we've plunged, that we are picking guys out who we'd kind of like to see star and have the potential to be stars, and we're thinking, right, how can we build them? Right, have them annihilated by this giant ham hock of a man in a match that will go 12 minutes, probably at most, and if he emerges from it relatively unscathed, having taken an absolute beating, then maybe he could star in future.
It's because they've made us addicted to that one near fall in those Brock matches.
Yes.
That's that dragon you're chasing every time, is one of those near falls to actually become a fall and that guy to win. And what those matches have done successfully every time is giving you just one. And that is thrilling. So Ricochet getting that is the thing that we all point towards, because none of us think he's going to win, and then you do get dragged into it. So there is sort of like kind of proof of concept with this formula. But all I want to see with Ricochet is a double moonsault get caught into an F5. I'm already thinking of the spot that finishes him off rather than the moment where he nearly wins.
Yeah.
He's a different kind of flippy opposition than someone like an AJ Styles.
Yeah, his 630 could be built towards very well if he targets that diverticulitis afflicted gut of
Harder
Brock
for you to
Lesnar's.
say than it was for Shane McMahon to beat.
Yes, I know. I know. Outrageous. What an absolute hero he was. But yeah, they could build something. They could build a really absorbent match around that. It would be nice this time if the commentators even acknowledged that he had a very, very affecting bout with it. But again, it just feels like if we're scrambling to come up with potential candidates for that Brock Lesnar match, and tonight's and next week's Raw really needs to serve to build someone to that effect, they're kind of starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you've got 2 weeks here and then whatever before the Rumble where somebody has to be created out of thin air. But Heyman's excellent at that on and off screen. So. Yes,
one promo could just generally put somebody over on a temporary basis, but we'll see what happens. Now, at TLC last night, in a very snake bit, kind of a sad spectacle to watch, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair lost to the Kabuki Warriors, as they will henceforth be known Kabuki Warrior A and Kabuki Warrior B. I mean, that's absolutely outrageous from Jerry Lawler. I know he phones it in, but like, does he actually watch it on this basis? No.
Or is there
a more sinister reason why he got them confused? Who knows? Who knows? Regardless, they lost that match, and you'd expect some repercussions to emerge in the fallout. Will those repercussions, Benjamin, manifest as yet another revisit of Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair?
Yes, I believe it will. Ultimately, I think that's the objective for WrestleMania. I actually thought this match would parlay into Asuka and Becky Lynch in the short term. I still think it will. I think that's probably going to be a Royal Rumble match. But I think Charlotte's probably going to win the Rumble, and I think that's going to be the match going forwards.
Michael Hamflet, I'm going to put you on the spot here. How on earth, right now, how do they make this halfway interesting?
They don't. I can't see that happening at all. Like, as much as like Charlotte and Becky have got the chemistry and blah, 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 you just can't be dealing with that pairing as opponents. They can get through this month. Assuming Kyrie needs some time off to recover here, they could actually book that triple threat now with Asuka as the one that's had their number for the Royal Rumble. She wants a title shot of her own. Charlotte just gets in because she's Charlotte. And it also writes all three of them out the Royal Rumble, leaving quite a fresh winner to challenge Becky. I would dread the prospect of Charlotte and Becky at WrestleMania, because I just think there's so many, as we've seen with NXT and with the Survivor Series, there's so many women that I think everybody has already fantasy booked in that slot, including like a returning Ronda Rousey even, to the point where Charlotte would be the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
I think Shayna Baszler's the best case scenario. But I just think that's the direction they're going to go in based on what's been happening so far.
It's with respect due as well, because Charlotte's still great, and we've all laboured on that point that she does tend to give everybody their best match eventually. Yeah. But it's just this particular pairing. It's a lot to ask fans to care about. And I actually think that's been lost a little bit in this build. We said that they built it backwards, that Charlotte and Becky had teamed together before they remembered they were supposed to build the tension. And that's one of the reasons why it diffused some of the heat going into this match. But I think a lot of it is what would have been novelty had this been left alone for 2 years, instead was more of this, because it had only been left alone for one. And I just think they didn't wait long enough to go back to this. I remember when they used to hate each other. Had that been the case, I think you could have done it. I just really hope they don't.
My worry, and I'm thinking back now to, I think it was last week's Raw segment where they were getting ready in the locker room, and at this point they decided to come together for the whole the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or whatever. And I think the atmosphere intended was for a bit of tension and for a bit of resolve to thaw, for them to come together. But all I saw behind their eyes was, I can't be arsed with this either. I think their level of enthusiasm is right down with ours.
I dread the promo between them if it becomes a blame game, because it's going to very quickly be reduced to, I couldn't help you, I was tied to a ladder. Like, why didn't you untie me? You know, why weren't you there? I was tied to the ladder. Well, you should have untied me. There's a hole in my bucket. Like, they're both losers if they have that conversation. And I do worry that that'll become the main talking point.
And that's how they talk.
And the main source of blame as to how they lost that match. And it does no favours to either of them, not least of all Becky Lynch. But they've done really well to preserve her, at least. So hopefully that's not like the first thing they think of to do.
I know, looking at the events of the storyline, and we ritually banter off WWE's inability to structure anything with any kind of coherence or continuity, they've planted the seeds for this. Unfortunately, for I think all involved, it is going to happen. Is there anyone else who can emerge as a contender for Becky Lynch's Raw title? I know you've touched on Asuka, but beyond that, they've just done a terrible job of this women's division of late, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they've done a generally terrible job since WrestleMania, quite frankly.
Yeah.
No, there's only Shayna Baszler, quite honestly, who obviously had a brief main roster run around Survivor Series and looked very strong. They seem to be really pitching the wagon to her. But I think they want to stick on NXT. You know, if that's the other difficulty, if you can't just do call-ups willy-nilly now. So
yeah, at the very least, you'd expect that nothing's going to happen on this week's because it will essentially telegraph the result of that incredible looking match on NXT on Wednesday night this week, which at this point of the conversation I wish we were talking about, because instead we are going to discuss AJ Styles versus Randy Orton set for tonight's Raw. Who's going to win?
Who's going to care? It's a Randy Orton payoff. Randy Orton's really fun as a babyface because he teases hitting the move that is really, really cool. The 10 minutes getting to that is really, really dull, even when he's a babyface. AJ Styles has had moments. I think we're critical of him on this podcast sometimes. He's had moments this year where he's brought the magic. He's still got it when he can. And if he gets something out of Randy Orton, it's a Christmas miracle bigger than anything that they can wrap on the stage. You know, I've just thought about Becky getting wrapped in ribbon by Charlotte as a revenge attack. No, but if there's something good to come from this, then it's probably going to be the best thing of the taping because it has to be excellent. You know what I mean? It's not just AJ's not going to get an average match out of Orton because every Randy Orton match is average. I can't fake excitement over it. But people really love AJ Styles and they really love Randy Orton. So if any of those are wherever Raw,
I can't hear them.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If anybody's match in that venue tonight, please make it known because you certainly read enough of it, but it's not vocalised in arenas ever. So I'd like to hear some of that.
He said, Michael Hamflett, for the benefit of those on audio, that he can't fake excitement about Randy Orton. Benjamin, can you?
No, I can't fake excitement about anything in particular, and certainly not this. I actually do think it'll be a good match, but not one I'm interested in seeing. That's the paradox of Randy Orton. Even when he has good matches, I don't want to see them because I've seen good Randy Orton matches and they're all basically the same.
It's good in that sort of they will walk back into the curtain, into the gorilla, and they'll get a few.
They'll get the
sagely nods from the likes of Michael Hayes.
They're the guys you want to be.
Yeah. And these flippy guys. That's how it's done. You show them how it's done.
Saying to some frightened young performance center graduate, follow that. You know, just okay, gives 5 minutes.
FTMF, Randy Orton. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's quite easy. You'll just do something that doesn't completely enervate everyone watching. Right, we are nearly at the end of this Raw Preview podcast.
Do you think we'll see Seth Rollins?
Probably.
Because I think this show is in Des Moines, Iowa.
Oh my God, can you bloody imagine?
I might be wrong.
Let's just pretend for the sake of the discourse that you're correct. Can you imagine after all of the reactions throughout all of the year that they've finally reached the same wavelength of fans and they're presenting this guy as someone everyone wants to boo at last, and then the guy goes to his hometown.
And then he loses and passes the torch to next year's disappointment.
Which they can start now because these are Christmas tapings, so Vince can be like, hey Kevin, get that sad outfit on. We won't need to get you any extra padding, hey pal? And then that's Owens ruined just in time for the Royal Rumble. Perfect.
Now, I know they don't really tend to sell anything in WWE, but surely the extent of the brutality of last week's attack, that's got to be Kevin Owens written off over Christmas, and now that you've said he's going to be in Santa outfit, he's going to be in a bloody Santa outfit, isn't he?
It's weird, isn't it? Because this was the biggest story coming out of Raw, and they tried to have the cake and eat it by putting the highlights on the pay-per-view without there being any kind of match,
Yes.
not even an Authors of Pain tag match or something. There was no way to reference it other than just showing the video again. So it's sort of accidentally fallen off the agenda to the point where it's the last thing we're getting to. But it's probably the program I'm most interested in. But
probably should have led with it, really.
But taped pro wrestling doesn't lend itself well to this urgent stuff, because by tomorrow, if we're going to choose to read, and we all probably will, we're going to know where this angle's going, and the joy of it has been in the mystery. So I think it's going to have to be in-ring stuff. It's going to be probably by the second week of the taping, it's going to have to be Seth and the Authors having the first match as a six-man together or something like that, because any angle stuff loses the impact if you're watching it when it was taped a week ago, and that's where all the drama's been in this so far.
If we're going to be less flippant about the podcast, which we have not done so far, I'll take blame for directing you guys on this. You've put an idea in my head. This is going to have to be very quick on this, but Shield 2.0, as Adam Wilborn likes to call them, versus Rey Mysterio, Humberto Carrillo, and Ricochet. Like, 3 of your faves. There goes my pen. 3 of your faves who you don't really want to see fail, being failed by Shield 2.0, getting absolutely battered around the place.
Yeah.
There's got to be some investment in that, you'd think, even for you, Mr. Numb.
No, yeah, but I would like that. But, you know...
Will Seth wrestle in the slacks like Authors of Pain?
All we can say is that to everyone on wrestling Twitter, alluding to the fact that these aren't going to be placeholder shows, they just delivered one on pay-per-view last night. So
that's the problem. That's why it's so difficult to get enthusiastic about it. It has to be a placeholder show because of all the reasons Michael's just explained. Any angle you're going to know about.
You know what I love? And people will think this is counterintuitive. I love recording a podcast like this or a Raw review where it's end times and scorched earth and then something great happening for me to feel
absolutely.
like...
Nobody wants it to be uninteresting or boring or unexciting. We all want it to be.
This
we just
glum slide towards Christmas.
Yeah, well, it's
you never like it,
as
do
you
you?
say, it's a season 4 tradition, and WWE sticks to them rigidly, and producing some just meaningless nonsense at this time of year is what they do. That is their tradition. And
I would bloody love a good episode of Raw tonight. Something seismic, a real shock to make you think, I'm actually going to have to watch a taped Christmas episode of Raw. The illusions are out there, people. The hints are out there. I might look even more of a dickhead than I already do, apart from in this resplendent Mitsuru Misawa t-shirt that my fellow great man Benjamin Richardson so kindly bought me for Christmas.
You got me a Bendy Mabel. I love that just as much, if not more.
Literally got my Mabel action figure, which is absolutely fantastic. But it feels like the time's up. It pretty much is. I'm looking at my watch and my phone. So you're going to have to follow us on Twitter at this point for more searing hot takes. Michael Hamflet, where can they follow you?
Not for any of them, at Michael Hamflet.
Benjamin?
It's at BAR3wood.
I've been doing all right on Twitter of late. I'm not hitting peak form. I'm not blessing the team.
You're not on the road to WrestleMania.
I'm on the road to WrestleMania. I'm declaring myself like I'm going to have a great Twitter activity in 2020. I'm not on MP4 like Uber form, but I'm doing a few decent like bits of witticisms here and there. So follow me at Sidgwick. You can follow us all at WhatCulture WWE on Twitter. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Adam Wilborn is exceptional at this, and you people need to give him more credit than you do. We will see you soon.